talk. We're especially grateful for all visitors who've come here tonight. And we have a special guest, and I'll talk about him in just a second. I had the privilege and opportunity to be at his new clinic next to Target. Sorry, that's a plug anyway. On the first day he opened, and so I found this kind of cool little story. There's a young doctor who had just opened an office, and he was really excited. His secretary told him a man was there to see him. The young doctor told her to send him in. Pretending to be a busy doctor, he picked up the phone just as the man came in. Yes, that's right. The fee is $200. Yes, I'll expect you at 2:10. All right, no later. I'm a very busy man. He hung up the phone and turned to the man waiting. May I help you? No, said the man. I just came to install your phone. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. Demetrio J. Aguila III. He is a surgeon in Norfolk, Nebraska, born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Filipino immigrants. Dr. Aguila spent his childhood years in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and New York before attending college and medical school at Boston University. While a senior at BU, Dr. Aguila joined the Air Force and subsequently went on to become the Department of Defense's only F-16 combat flight surgeon, peripheral nerve surgeon, ENT surgeon, plastic surgeon, medical acupuncturist. Say that twice. In his 21 years in uniform, he traveled to 46 states and 31 countries. As the director for surgical training for the Air Force's Elite Special Operations Pararescue Program at Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, Dr. Aguila had the opportunity to work side by side with his heroes, teaching them life-saving combat rescue techniques that have since been used on the battlefield. Demetrio's true passion, however, is sacred scripture. As a cooperator in Opus Dei and Third Degree Knight of Columbus, he spent countless hours in self-study, been an invited speaker in 5 states and 3 foreign countries, teaching scriptural apologetics to civilians and military members all over the world. His How to Speak Catholic podcast, which can be found in the iTunes store, has over 8,000 downloads in 49 states, the District of Columbia, and 29 foreign countries. He is presently a graduate student at the Augustine Institute, working on his Master of Arts in Theology of the New Evangelization. His ultimate goal is to be able to teach and train his 4 children for the spiritual warfare in which we all find ourselves, fulfilling Christ's last commandment to us in Matthew 28:19. Go forth and make disciples of all nations. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Demetrio J. Aguila III.
Hopefully I figured out how to do all this correctly. And thank you all for the warm welcome. And thank you in particular, Father, thank you for being so kind as to invite me. Now, Father Forche said to me, he said, you know, we haven't graded you yet. We're waiting until you're done to make a determination as to whether or not we wasted our time tonight. So I'm hoping that I won't disappoint. But ultimately, it's not about me, okay? We're not here about me. We're not even here about Father Forget. We're here to talk about God's love for us, okay? And so with that in mind, I'd like to start all of us together with a prayer. So if you'll all stand up, please, that'd be great. Actually, I changed my mind. Sit down. Okay, stand up. All right, everybody have a seat. Okay, this time for real, stand up. Okay, I want to make sure nobody's falling asleep, because I know, when I was an altar boy, I used to fall asleep during adoration. And there were times when I was holding the incense and I came close to lighting my clothes on fire. So, but we'll get to that later, okay? All right, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Amen. My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, and that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, St. Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for us. Amen. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Oh, come on, you guys can do better than that. Amen. All right, that's more like it. Okay. So, Father Forget started out with a story, so I figure I should do the same. All right. Now, we're talking about the Bible tonight, so I want to make sure that we start with the Bible. So everybody, or most of you, should have a Bible in front of you. Am I correct? So go ahead and open up your Bible. Okay, I should hear a whole bunch of creaking because we're Catholics, so these things don't open very often. Am I right? Okay, this book is not a scary book, and we're going to go over some of that stuff tonight. Now, this side of the room, I want you to put your finger in Genesis chapter 3. Okay? Genesis chapter 3. This side of the room, Genesis, by the way, is the first book in the Bible. For those of you that don't know. Okay? This side of the room, I want you to put your finger in Revelation chapter 3. Okay? This is going to be really important. You'll see why in a second here. Okay? So, and I will join you in this adventure. So go ahead and put your fingers there, and you'll see why this is important in a second, okay? Since we're talking about the Bible, we're going to talk about the Bible. Is everybody where they need to be? Raise your hand if you haven't found the right section yet. Revelation, by the way, is the last book in the Bible, right before the index, okay? Right before the maps. All right, everybody there? All right, perfect. So, now, I know that Father Forget is not supposed to share stories about what happens in the confessional, but he did share this one with me in confidence. He said, you can't tell anybody this story. So, I'm going to share it with you. But he said don't use anybody's names, okay? So, there was, apparently there was a young parishioner, a young lady who had recently moved here to Osmond and started going to Mass on a fairly regular basis. Actually started going to Mass daily. Just moved here, and Father Forget obviously was very excited about this. He said, wow, got a daily Mass goer, somebody who's really faithful. This is awesome. This is wonderful. She'd been going to daily Mass for months and months and months, and all of a sudden, he stopped seeing her. She didn't show up to daily Mass, didn't show up to Sunday Mass anymore. He said, I wonder what's going on. So he went into the parish registry and looked her up. He said, I think I know where she lives. She lives just down the street. I'll just go make sure everything's okay. So he goes to her house, knocks on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Hears a little sound in the house, a little rustling. I think there's somebody in there. So he knocks again. Knock, knock, knock. A little louder this time. A little more rustling, but nothing else. So Father Forget took one of his business cards and he wrote on it, Revelation 3, verse 20. Okay? And he put it in the door and he walked away. After a couple of minutes, door creaks open a little bit, this little hand comes out, takes a card, door shuts. Okay? So now everybody over on this side of the room find Revelation chapter 3, verse 20. Okay? Chapter 3, verse 20. Do we have a volunteer to read that out loud? That's what I thought. But tonight is going to be interactive, by the way. It will be a quiz. Okay? Can you read it? Go ahead and stand up. Tell everybody your name.
My name is Gary Sheeper.
Okay, we got a different volunteer. That's okay. Great. Go ahead, sir.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, then I will enter his house and dine with him, and he with me. I will give the victor.
And that's good right there, sir. Thank you. So, for those of you that are going to be watching the podcast, by the way, we're recording this for my podcast, and we're also recording this for my YouTube channel. So, if you missed that, or for those of you that couldn't hear what he said on the recording, I'll repeat it, okay? So it says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he with me. So clearly, Father Forget, being a very clever priest, said, I'm going to use the Bible, I'm going to get this Catholic to open the Bible and ask her to come over to the parish and have dinner with all of us. So, following Sunday rolls around, he still hasn't seen this young lady. But he's going through the collections at the end of the Mass, and he finds his card. And on his card is scribbled out Revelation chapter 3, verse 20. And in its place is written Genesis chapter 3. All right, ready? Wait for it. Wait for it. Verse 10. So he's, oh, I don't remember that one. And let me go run and take a look at it and see what it says. So I'll read it for you guys. I just wanted to make sure you were going to be able to follow along. And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked. So I hid myself. Okay? For those of you who don't know, there is humor in the Bible. Okay? One of these days, I promise, I've been promising a lot of people I'm going to do a podcast episode specifically on humor in the Bible. That's just one example right there. I mean, most people think, oh, Bible. It's either a foreign book to them, they're not familiar with it, they don't know anything, and they feel intimidated. Okay? It's my hope that by the end of tonight, you won't be intimidated anymore. And you'll start to open this book up. Because I'm going to prove something to you tonight. Okay, so here's where the interaction happens. Okay? How many of you have heard that Catholics don't know the Bible? Raise your hand. Okay? Any of you heard that before? The Catholics don't know the Bible? Come on, raise them high. I know more than, I'm not the only one that's heard that before. Raise them really high. Keep your hands up. Okay? How many of you have heard that as a Catholic, you don't know the Bible? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Okay? How many of you feel like, as a Catholic, you don't know the Bible? Raise your hand. Nice and high. Ah, see, we got a few more takers this time. Okay? Okay, put your hands down now. I'm going to start tonight by proving to every single one of you that not only do you know the Bible better than any of your non-Catholic friends, but you know the Bible way better than you realize you do. Now, how many of you think that that's going to be hard for me to prove tonight? Go ahead, raise them high. I enjoy a challenge. Okay? All right. This is what we're going to do. Remember, I said this was going to be interactive. I'm going to start a sentence. I want each of you to finish it together as a group. Okay? Can we do that? Okay? So if I were to say, I pledge allegiance, you would say? Okay, but I want you to do it a little bit louder. Let's try that again. I pledge allegiance. Very good. Okay, our Father who art in Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 11. Hail Mary, full of grace. Luke chapter 1, verse 28. Honor your father and your mother. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. Luke chapter 1, verse 42. Holy, holy, holy. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 3. Glory to God in the highest. Luke chapter 2, verse 14. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. John chapter 1, verse 29. And the one verse in Scripture that every single Catholic quotes before and after every single time they pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Matthew chapter 28, verse 19. How many of you did not know the answers to all of those questions? How many of you have non-Catholic friends who could finish those sentences just as quickly as you did just now? You have all memorized Old Testament and New Testament, but you don't know it. You didn't realize it. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking, okay? Because the force is strong with this one, okay? I know what you're thinking. Well, okay, that's fine. I know those verses. I don't know where to find them. I don't know the Bible like Joe Blow Baptist or what's his name, non-denominational dude, because I can't find them in the Bible. So let me ask you guys this question, okay? Everybody indulge me for a second here, okay? Close your eyes for a moment. All right? Close your eyes. I see some open eyes. Close those eyes. I'm looking around. If your eyes are open, you're volunteering for something. You're going to be standing up. Okay? Everybody got their eyes closed? I should not see any pupils. All right? Now, can all of you see your house? Say yes.
Yes.
I'm not convinced. Can all of you see your house?
Yes.
Okay, can you see the front door to your house?
Yes.
Can you see what color the front door to your house is?
Yes.
Can you see where the doorknob is on the house?
Yes.
Can you imagine yourself walking into the house?
Yes.
Can you imagine where the kitchen is in the house?
Yes.
Can you imagine where the refrigerator is in the kitchen?
Yes.
Do you know the GPS coordinates to your house?
No.
Well, then you must not know your house. How many of you believe that? Because you don't know the GPS coordinates to your house, some dude at Google Maps knows your house better than you do. Because you know Google Maps knows the GPS coordinates to your house, as does Siri. So Siri knows your house better than you do. Am I right?
No.
I heard somebody say yes. That Siri knows your house better than you do? No. Would you all agree that you know your house better than Siri does? Say yes.
Yes.
Even if your answer is no, say yes. Okay? Would all of you agree that you know your house better than Google Maps does? Say yes. Yes. All right? Do not be intimidated. Why do you know the Bible so well? Because you live it every single time you go to Mass. I'm going to show you that in a minute here. Okay? But we're going to cover one. I want to start with an idea. There's a lot of people think, oh, the Bible is just a whole collection of stories that don't make any sense to me. I don't understand any of it. You understand it way better than you think. You don't give yourselves enough credit. Okay? Father Frege asked me to come here and talk tonight about the Bible as God's love letters for us. Now, how many of you think of the Bible and say, oh yeah, those look like love letters to me? Father, your hand should be up. Okay. Okay. God, this book right here is all about God's love for us. And just in case you didn't believe me, this book is bookended by two examples of His love. The greatest examples of His love. It starts with a wedding and it ends with a wedding. The very first 3 chapters of this book are about a wedding. And the very last 3 chapters of this book are about a wedding. If you don't believe me, when you get home tonight, find that Bible. It's got all the dust on it that you're using as a doorstop or as a paperweight. Open it up. Take a look at it. Okay? It's about God's love for us. There's all kinds of stories in here about God's love. Just to prove to you. Now, you wouldn't get this if you were reading the Bible in English. Or even in Greek. How many of you know that the Bible was in Greek before it was in English? Okay? So there are 2 parts to the Bible, right? We call the first part the Old Testament, right? And then the second part is called the New Testament. So the New Testament was all written in ancient Greek before it was translated into a whole bunch of other languages. The Old Testament was written in a bunch of other languages, primarily Hebrew and Aramaic. A couple other languages sprinkled in there, here and there. And then it was later translated into Greek because most of the Jews by Jesus' time didn't understand Hebrew. So they had to have it translated into the language they understood, so it was translated into Greek. So even if you were reading the Greek version of the Old Testament, you wouldn't see this, but you would see it in the Hebrew version. But let's take a look at the English version since most of us don't know very much Hebrew here. Okay? Everybody open up to your Bible, Genesis chapter 1. Okay, again, you should all know now, that's the first book in the Bible. Alright? Follow along with me. I'll read, this is from the Revised Standard Version. I think most of you have the New American Bible in front of you, but they're close enough to each other that I think you'll get the idea. Now, every single person in this room has heard this verse probably a bazillion times, but at least once to be sure. Okay? So it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. How many of you have never heard that verse before? The young lady in the red shirt. I saw you raise your hand. Okay? See? I'm like your mom. I got eyes on the back of my head. You know why? Because I got 4 kids of my own. God bless them all. All right? So, why did I just start with that? And why did I mention Hebrew? Because in Hebrew, that verse has a total of 7 words. It's the only language in which that verse has 7 words. Now, how many of you have heard that 7 is an important number in the Bible? Raise your hands. Okay? How many of you have heard that 7 is the number of perfection? You're wrong. Okay? 7, or at the very least, that's an incomplete answer. Okay? So 7, the word for 7 in Hebrew is Shabbat. Okay? That's the word from which we get the word Shabbat, which is the older Hebrew term for, anybody know? Sabbath. Okay? Now, why is that significant? You're thinking, okay, so we're going to talk about going to church. No, we're not going to talk about that yet. Okay? 7, in addition to being the word for 7, is also the word for covenant. And what's a covenant? Anybody know what a covenant is? Okay? A covenant is a sacred family bond. It's a sacred family bond. Anybody know the difference between a covenant and a contract? A contract is an exchange of goods and services. So, for instance, I go to McDonald's, I want a cheeseburger. They give me the cheeseburger, I give them however much money it costs. We have a contract for them to give me the cheeseburger, I give them the money, the transaction is done, and that's the end of our relationship. That's a contract. A covenant is a lifelong connection where you don't exchange goods and services, you exchange persons. Okay? Great example of this. The difference between covenant and a contract. An example of a covenant would be marriage. The equivalent example of a contract would be prostitution. Are those different from each other? Say yes. Yes. That should be an emphatic yes. I don't believe you. To say yes. Yes. Okay, all right. I'm glad we all agree on that. Okay? That's the difference between a covenant and a contract. And in the Bible, the most important covenant of them all is the exchange of persons that happens in marriage. When God inspired the author of Genesis to write Genesis, he purposely had him write the first verse in 7 words to emphasize to everyone who would read it in Hebrew or hear it in Hebrew that God was making a covenant through creation. He was making all of creation part of his family. He wanted all of creation to be his bride. Okay? That's an important thing to understand as you consider what love is. So, how many of you think you know what the definition of love is? Okay? So in English, love is a multifaceted word, right? Would you all agree with that? Say yes. Yes. Okay? So, I love my wife. How many of you are married, by the way? You're men, raise your hands if you're married. How many of you love your wives? So keep those hands up. Okay? Because your wives are looking. There are witnesses in here, okay? You keep your hands up, right? You love your wife? Say yes. Yes. Okay, you go and put your hands down. I love pizza. Especially really good pizza. There's a place in Boston, right on the west end of the Boston University campus. Has the best pizza in the entire world. I love pizza. So are pizza and my wife the same thing? No. Say no, really loud. Okay? I love playing ice hockey. Is that the same as pizza? No. I love surgery. Okay? Look out if I got a knife in my hand. Alright? Is that the same as my wife? Say no. No. So in English, the word love is often abused. In Greek, however, it's much clearer. Okay, in Greek, there are 4 different words for love. At least 4 that I know. Okay? There's eros. Who knows what eros is? Okay? That's the kind of love that a man has for his wife. I'll leave it at that. Okay, you can use your imaginations. There's phileo or philos. What kind of love is that? Okay, that's like, anybody heard of the city Philadelphia? Okay, that's a compound. Nobody here's heard of the city Philadelphia? I didn't see any hands go up. Anybody here heard of Philadelphia? Okay, all right. I want to make sure you guys aren't falling asleep. Otherwise, we'll have you stand up and sit down again, okay? So that's a compound word. Philadelphia. Delphos is brother. Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, right? You've heard that before. It's simple Greek, okay? So there's phileo, there's eros, okay? There is, I can't remember the third one. The fourth one, the one I want to get to, is agape. How many of you have heard of agape before? You've heard a little bit of this. Agape is self-giving love. It's all-consuming. You give all of yourself. The way that St. Thomas Aquinas defined agape was willing the good of the other. Okay? The kind of love that God has for all of us is when He wants nothing but what's best for you. Not necessarily. See, and the truck agrees. All right? He wants nothing but what's best for you. And He gives all of Himself for that. Okay? It's okay, someday it'll stop. So, that's what this book is all about. Okay, now, let's back up a little bit. How many of you have been to Mass sometime in the last 365 days? Every hand should go up. Okay, Father's watching. All right, he's looking, he's checking. All right, so I'm going to go through a little thought exercise with all of you that I went through with my 9-year-old daughter. She's now 10, but she was 9 at the time that we went through this, okay? So, think about the Mass. All right? Think about the Mass. When there's a part of the Mass, when Father Forget takes the bread, and he holds it up. Actually, just before he holds it up, right? He kind of sort of holds it up before he really holds it up, right? Okay, so he holds it up part way, and he says something along these lines. Okay? On the night on the night in which he was betrayed, he took bread, he gave thanks, he broke it, and then he gave it, right? Something along those lines. You see those 4 words. He took, he blessed, he broke, and he gave. Okay? You guys are all familiar with that part of the Mass, am I right? Say yes. Yes. Okay? Now, the Church teaches that when a priest is celebrating the Mass, particularly in the Eucharistic prayer, which is what we're talking about right now, he is acting in persona Christi Capitis. That means in the person of Christ, the head. In other words, in that moment, it is no longer Father Forget who is celebrating the Mass, but it is Christ as the high priest in heaven celebrating the Mass through him. That's what the Church teaches. Okay? So if it's Christ who's celebrating the Mass through him, and he says, he took and he broke, ask yourself, is that when he breaks the bread? Think about this for a second, okay? I see some smoke, so that's good. All right? I see some brows knitting together. Raise your hands if you think to yourself, yeah, that's where he breaks the bread. Raise your hands if you think that's where he doesn't break the bread. Raise your hands if you don't remember. Okay? So for those of you that don't remember, this is going to be something for you to pay attention to when you go to Mass, whenever it is you go to Mass next, hopefully this Sunday, right? All right? And by the way, I'm going to teach you tonight the secret to never, ever again being bored at Mass. How many of you would like to know the secret to never again being bored at Mass? I know none of you have ever been bored at Mass. Am I right? Say yes. Okay, none of you in this room have ever been bored at Mass. But you know, you've heard of somebody who was bored at Mass at some point. Am I right? Say yes. Yes. Wouldn't it be nice for you to pass on to that person the secret of never again being bored at Mass?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go over that a little bit later, but let me work up to it, okay? So if that's not the part of the Mass where so why does he not break the bread there? Okay, so what happens after that? So he does, so we'll set that aside for a second. As you're